Hi guys, this is Nikki, also known as Faces Trader, and you're watching the January 5, 2021 Philippine Market Update. For today, let's begin. Actually, I've heard that a lot of people are saddened by the fact that some of the account brokerage firms are actually not functioning well. And so I heard some people in other brokerage firms having a problem to execute for the day. Now, Philippine Stock Index, when I say having a difficulty, either their brokerage firm was hanging, the system was hanging, and so forth. So they couldn't make a buy and sell transaction. So you could see that today the Philippine Stock Index is down 63 points, 7,134. We're actually following a downturn last night, and you could see actually that finviz.com will show to you that last night there has been profit taking with almost all the shares falling down, your Dow Jones, your Nasdaq, your S&P 500. There were a few green spots. Definitely some of your green spots last night were a little bit more on the healthcare sector and a little bit more on the gold sector, actually. So I'm going to take a look at some Filipino numbers for you. Just take a look at some stats for you first before we begin. So in the top traded names, you could see that Dito, Merrimark, APL, ACEN, and PHA continue to dominate with the number of trades. However, those gains were not sustained. Dito, Merrimark, APL, ACEN, PHA actually had quite a volatile movement today. Aside from the fact that today, ABS-CBN opened as high as 14 pesos because of the announcement that ABS-CBN is getting a potential renewal of the franchise as Senator Tito Soto tried to petition that. In some sad news, actually, for some Filipinos, we kind of have to feel sad about what happened to Miss Christine Dacera. For those who aren't aware, let me read to you what has happened. This 23-year-old was actually raped by 11 people who she actually thought were her friends. So it's a very, very sad thing. And so indeed, we need to petition Justicia para kay Christine Angelica Dacera. She has been treated badly, actually so bad that we need to have a protection for a lot of women. So rape and rape, basically it's rape. So very, very sad. Let's take a look at as well for some news, guys. Okay, so Dito, Merrimark, APL, ACEN, and PHA, you could see that there's been a lot of selling pressure, and you are also seeing quite a strong selling front, not just on these outperformers, but some of your companies that have been actually underperforming, getting a lot of selling pressure too. Take a look at the fact that your financials continue to fall. Your BDO, your Metro Bank, your BDO 102, your Metro Bank 46 bucks, your BPI is 82. Furthermore, your Puregold is down 6% to 38.4, the lowest that it has been for quite a while now, for about 6 months. So we're going to take a look at that number. GD Capital down 6% at 560 bucks. And a lot of your top gainers in the past actually succumbed to a lot of profit taking. So NIKL Asia down slightly, your Chelsea down 6%, your Macro Asia down 5%, Cebu Pacific falling down 4.5%. So definitely the travel ban is a culprit of these movements. Meanwhile, a lot of your penny names went up. Like there are some penny, actually not a lot, like very few penny names. MRC still continued at 63 cents. ABA and AR 72 cents and 0031. But definitely the bigger picture for the day, and of course your PHR was up a little, 3% to 3.14. But the bigger picture really is the continued profit taking of your outperformers. So that is really some of the charts that we have to discuss for the day. And although top gainer indeed is ABS-CBN following the petition of the renewal of the franchise, you could see that overall the index was actually more on a downturn. PSEI was down, all shares down, financials down, industrials down, holdings down. Your properties are also down, your mining is also down, your services are also down. Now, it might actually seem a little bit weird for some people why mining is down, given that mining, you could see that Felix mining was actually up. FNI and Apex was managed to actually be up. However, most of the names, the other names which were larger, were red. But I'd say that mining might actually be more resilient rather than on the downside. As you could see, usually when the market is risk averse, the usual safe haven isn't always cash. The usual safe haven is usually gold plays. At least those are the, wake up, those are your, those are your usuals. So foreign net selling is negative 80 million. Market value is quite big, 11 billion. I'd have to say no yet, no first. I'll just say later. Wait up. Okay, so so we'll go head on to the charts, right? So I think like most of the news have been baked into the market. There's other than the ABS-CBN, I don't think there's quite a lot of discussion except straight on the charts. So the Philippine market, let's go to the charts of these names. Merrimart. Let's go to Merrimart, PHA, ACEN, all of your top-rated names, your Dito Telecoms. And probably let's take a look at some names that have been beaten down. So Merrimart, as we've seen, a lot of profit taking is now happening. So we put a sell signal. That is a massive drop. Of course, it can go higher tomorrow at 8 peso 50 cents. However, what you could see is that if you have been selling even here at 6, this does not stop you to sell at 8 either. So these are actually extensions after extensions. Usually the last breakout is actually not, usually it's a hit or miss because it's not the same as buying it at 3 or buying it at the lower end of below 3, right? So usually you've got a lot of profit taking on these names. Merrimart, extension, profit taking. Dito Telecom, extension, profit taking. ACEN, extension, profit taking. You can see that these are all negative movements because even if you've sold at 10 or 9, these are still selling front. Meaning, even if tomorrow fell, another confirmation, or even if it goes higher, it is still a confirmation of trimming all the way. Merrimart, ACEN, Dito, PHA. A lot of profit taking, as you could see. It can go higher to 150, doesn't mean that it will definitely go down. However, up or down, these are all selling patterns. NIKL is still there, but actually, this one is still not as aggressive, as aggressively overbought because it was actually just stable, even if it has rallied from about 150 to $6. So times 4. But NIKL and FNI are quite different. It's not yet actually in the zone that is actually similar to what's happened to your Dito Telecom, your ACEN, your Merrimart, and your PHA. So it's kind of different. Similarly, with MRC, you could see that it's more stable rather than what happened to PHA. So although they are both similar uptrends, it's not the same style, no? Different behaviors. Unlike this one, APL, you could see that there are some obvious selling front coming in. So after this 0.5 to 0.2 or a 400% move in a single month, people are already starting to sell Apollo Global. Even if it can go fall further tomorrow, it's still a 300% up. Now, even if it can rise tomorrow as well, it's still a sell and trim. So usually extended names do not actually lend leeway for you to sell at one price. You're supposed to sell at multiple levels. Now, definitely, it doesn't mean that selling is good for everyone. Some people would just sell partial and hold some of their winners. That's also fine. So what else? So you've seen that. Let's take a look at some names that are really badly beaten. What's happening here is that Puregold has just broken down your $40, right? And it's actually now trading at 38.4, a level not seen since the start of April 2020. So what is causing the drop of Puregold of a 6% drop? can actually check if there's news here. What's the disclosure? Cash dividends, ex-date January 5, 2021. But that's just a 25 centavo. So if it's cash dividend related, I doubt that it's the reason why. So we're going to try to check if there are news about these names. However, if things are just the same and nothing really, even if you've bought today at about 41 or 40 or 39 or 38, in my view, even if this can fall further, these are still supports, and the lower it goes, actually, just like the selling pressures are, the lower it goes, the buyers are actually more, in my view, at the right place here. So Puregold here is actually looking as a good entry point as it succumbs to a lot of selling pressure. Wait up. Let me just check it out. 36.62, 382. Yeah. You've got the resistance at 40. That used to be a support that's now acting as a resistance. That 43.27 is now acting as a resistance. So you just put these arrows just in case you have to remind yourself that there will be some trading range arenas here. However, so some people who bought at 38 would likely just sell it at 40 or 43, 44. That's likely to. And even as it falls somewhere at 36, I do think that the bigger resistance still stands somewhere at a 48. So risk reward, but definitely there are some opportunities happening here. Let's take a look at Apex, some gold names. So you actually see GDX last night actually go up. In the US, some junior miner ETFs actually broke out. This is Van Eck Vectors Gold Miners ETF. And I'd say that when the market is trying to correct, usually it's gold that benefits. So GDX, GFI, Goldfield. So as you could see, almost all the gold-related names worldwide were actually rising. GFI, GDX, GAU. Let me just show that to you. This one has been, sadly, it fell. Now, actually, this one is not updated. This is just October, November. This is already trading at $1.28. So this is not an updated chart. If you look at TradingView, GAU is already up 10%. XAUUSD, let me just show to you that. It's actually a breakout from 1.9 area. So you could see that the market is actually going into some safe haven assets. And so in the Philippines, you could see that Felix Mining, Lepanto, all of them, although this was a drop today, I do think that there are some people willing to get a buy recos on their Felix Mining and APX. So a lot of gold-related names are actually showing a potential safe haven asset play here. So even at 182 all the way to 172, these looks to be a buying area. Apex, Felix, well, yeah. We could see that a lot of commodities in general have been on the rise. So copper, gold, right? So same trajectory, although Atlas was stronger. So I'd say that it is mostly a move to the commodities. I'd say commodities have been doing well. Of course, NIKL Asia has been doing well, mostly because of the beneficiary of electric vehicles, in my view. So NIKL FNI APX, all of these names, I think they are still steady. Mining, in my view, would be still steady. Now, let's take a look at some retailers. You could see that SSI continues to languish down. So most of these retailers are actually falling down. Retailers, restaurants, and so forth. Nonetheless, will it ever go fall 130? Let's see. That was your previous high. That's acting as a potential support. Similarly, Macro Asia, well, it hasn't acted as a support, but we'll see if it will. And Macro Asia used to have resistance here at $6. I think that this might actually become a support in the next coming days. Now, even if it goes $5 peso, I do think that these drops are more opportunities rather than resistances that are to be avoided upon all the way, no? So the fact that these are of course still your resistance, 9, 8, these are your resistances. However, there will be some trading action within the next 6 to 12 months. What you could be assured of is that the 2021 is going to be volatile. You've got some vaccines, some anti-vaccines, some more cases, closing, travel bans. So you'll get like a seesaw movement in the market, in my view. And so from 6 to 4 peso 50 cents, you've got a lot of arena to buy those shares. If it rallies about 7 or 8, get to understand that there will also be a tug of war there. So similarly, let's take a look at your SAB. Some of your airlines falling down, right? 56 to 46. And you could see that all of these are all in conjunction with the fact that most of your airlines worldwide have also been falling. So Delta Airlines, after succumbing on a resistance at 44, is now back to 38. However, take note, just like everyone else, last November, the support there is about 34. So a 10% drop is just a small downside compared to the potential reopening upside for the next 6 to 12 months. Therefore, if Cebu Pacific actually drops back to about 10%, back to 42, these are actually more of a buying area rather than a selling area. Yes, that is a double dragon tail here, but it's actually a bullish. When you see a dragonfly tail like that, that's a candlestick chart that's actually bullish. However, this doesn't mean that it's a sure thing. It can still fall tomorrow at about 42, can even retrace, fall further. However, these are actually buying opportunities rather than selling opportunities. So definitely the selling pressure here at about 54 proved to be very strong. 2 days of selling and then continuous. And so I would say that any rallies back of Cebu Pacific to these levels will be sold. I'll try to remember all the questions that were asked of me yesterday so that I'll just try to check out those names. Surtech has been asked of me because they had that offering, right? Like a couple, last year they've made a share offering. So, and they want to like spend on some 5G Kintel related thing. So satellites and antennas. So far, we are seeing some higher lows here at about 637 and 660, but not a lot of volume. So for now, it could be a momentum name in the future, but for the moment, all that we could see are these resistances here. A resistance at 9, a resistance at 10, and a strong resistance at 13. And anything can happen, whether it goes to 6 or 5, those can actually still consolidate. Similarly, I just wanted to share that THR finally seems to have been breaking out of that 3 peso area. Although that volume is, for some people, it might be high. For some people, it may be low. So we'll see. Definitely what's important here is that there are higher lows here at about 270 and 3 peso. Quite a big range. Very difficult to really ascertain whether it's just going to range trade here or actually momentum up. But for now, I think it's just a range trade. We don't see quite a lot of resistance pressures though. If 350 breaks, then probably go higher, as most of the buyers of PHR were the 1.68 secondary offering, I think. Now, with Dito Telecom falling down, Chelsea has been falling down, albeit this is a more weaker chart, right? So Dito Telecom, let's take a look at that. Sell off, yes, but will it really fall down further? Sometimes these types of names can fall fast, but it doesn't mean that it can really fall all the way. So sometimes it can actually just fall at 12 or 11 and then get buyers again, just like what happened here. In a bigger view, 8 to 5, so that was about 60% drop. Let's assume that it repeats quite a 60% drop. How big of a downside risk are we taking a look at? Around a 60% drop would be somewhere, 60% is big, right? So 14 all the way to about 7. Yeah. So it's huge. Yeah. So this one was 37%. Usually at the end of the run, it's more explosive to the downside. So it's actually, I'm not saying that this is a sure thing, but definitely when you see that selling pressure, you might as well predict the biggest downside rather than assume a shallow downside, right? Of course, it could be shallow, but it would be better for preparation of the mind to actually prepare for the bigger downside, such that even if you trim, let's say you want to get back in, there are chances that you can't get back in, right? Let's say you sell at 13 to buy back at 8. That isn't sure. We don't know if it will, but because for all you know, it just goes here. Sorry, let's stop that arrow. For all you know, it never really reaches that low, and it just really stops somewhere at about 11 or 12, right? So it's very difficult to ascertain whether these momentum names would actually fall. But when you see an extended name, especially after an 8 to 15 or almost 100% rise in just a couple of 6-7 days, usually that lends to a lot of profit taking rather than buying. So I wouldn't be surprised if these names would actually be falling in the next couple of days. And today was actually more of a selling off day. Now let me just see if there are questions, if any. All right, your screen is blurred. Sorry. Let me just first read all of the questions and find which questions are interesting to answer. So, what's the difference with the first and the fear? Will it be the same? Well, most of the time, it's gonna be about surprise. If people are mostly positive about the reopening, it could be already priced in, such that there are less leeway to go to the upside. Nonetheless, I don't think that it is. It depends. Like the more closures, especially on the earnings front, you'd see that live results will be given for you by the market. And so the more information we have, the better we can grasp about how fearful people are about the real outcome. Reality will actually sink in on whether their hopes and the reality is actually intertwined or at equilibrium or very far. Is there still good upside for the financials? Financials have been lagging, definitely, because banks are seen. It's not seen as a value. It depends. Like financials would be seen as a value by some people, but others are actually more fearful. So you're getting more of a mixed review on financials. Actually, you'd have to say financials, properties, restaurant sector, airlines in general, guys. The entire Philippines, except for like secular trend winners like solar companies, or maybe nickel, like commodity, it's very hard to ascertain how people will actually view most of the earnings fronts, especially since you can't predict how big the NPLs are. Now, if financials will actually surprise on the upside and actually tell people that they didn't have to write down as many losses as they expected, you might actually see a financial upside surprise come March. But that would be quite a while, so like about 2 months or so. So yun, what do you think about ABA technically? ABA technically looks okay today, but the problem in my view is that looks like the market is actually trying to sell off. So in the market, there's not a lot of safe havens in the Philippines. There will be some people probably choosing to buy this because there's an uptrend. Nothing wrong with these names. However, I don't know. Like you have to if it's strictly chart, then it's okay. But other than that, I'm not sure. Now, Mary Mart, yeah, so answered already. GT Gap, according to BPI's trade valuation, has a target price of 1205. You have to understand that GT Gap, large majority would be Toyota, and a lot of it is actually Metro Bank. So with the entire world, I'm not sure if this is how the world rhetoric on GT Cap is, and I didn't read the valuation report of GT Capital on why they have a target price of 1205, so I can't quite answer that. Nonetheless, I would say that GT Cap's businesses are highly skewed on the reopening theme and very much intertwined with car-related businesses. So it might be a difficulty for most people to actually purchase a car, just as difficult it is to actually purchase a house. So in some ways, GT Cap is actually a laggard because of the kinds of businesses that it is in. Take note that GT Cap has a lot of financial sector risk as well, given about 50% is Metro Bank. So it is more of a Metro Bank thing in my view. So I'll just be I'll take a look to be very sure about the contribution on earnings. All right, let's go to GT Capital. I believe that most of the contribution in terms of earnings is still Metro Bank. So let's see, gtcapital.com.ph. Let's take a look at their annual report at the very least. So this was pre-pandemic, all right? So November 2019, let's take a look at where the company's earnings primarily came from. So they said that their income is a result of Metro Bank's net income growth and Toyota Motor Philippines. So the conglomerate's net income comes mostly from TMP and Metro Bank, which is dependent on higher auto sales. So it's about the economy of how many cars are being sold in the Philippines. So the resurgence of the domestic economy is about our business growth momentum. So these are all GT Cap's assets: Metro Bank, Toyota, Federal Land, Metro Pacific, and AXA Life. So if you could just check a look at that, you want to actually see that these hybrid vehicles, the new Toyota Corolla Altis hybrid electric vehicle variant, the RAV4 and High-A. So I'd say that being bullish on GT Capital is not a bad thing. I'm actually more inclined to say that I'm a bull as well for GT Capital. However, I might not be as generous with target prices of 1205 because it's kind of hard to actually ascertain how many cars, how many auto sales there are. Yeah, so give it about a few quarters and we'll see whether GD Capital Metro Bank will surprise on the upside and whether the TMP or Toyota Motors actually surprises on the upside. I don't want to predict. I'll probably say that, at 400 to 500, it's too cheap. If you have it, you probably want to wait it out at about 800 pesos or 700 before you unload. Or recently, the short-term peak was about 600 plus. But I don't think that we have clarity to say that it's a 3x move, especially if you've bought at 400. So I'm not sure if it's a 1200 name. How about APL? APL actually got a lot of selling off. You could see that from 0.05 to 0.2 times 4 could go down to 0.15. I think it was just mostly backdoor related play. Doesn't mean that it'll go 0.05. I just think that people are willing to profit take already. Vistaland, AGI. Vistaland will also be skewed with how the property retail sales, property sales are, no? So Vistaland, most of your properties, in my view, are a cyclical sector. The less people have money, the more difficult it is to actually sell some real estate properties. The richer you are, the more willing you are likely to actually buy a home. However, that said, I don't think that we are going to retest these lows. So it will still be, in my view, higher lows. So like for most of these property segments, whether it be Vistaland or GT Cap or AGI, I think that most of these are to be seen as higher lows. So I do think that you won't see this going back to 400. So I do think that this is more a higher low rather than a full sell-off, no? So where could the higher lows be? It could actually be somewhere here at about 526 next coming few months, probably waited out about February or so. It could consolidate and even exaggerate, falling down to 491. And if it does, actually, those might actually be entry opportunities. In fact, in terms of capitulation and exaggeration, I do think that Puregold exaggerated here. Like this drop at about back to 38 to 30, or even if it falls to 37, is quite an exaggeration. I don't see quite the news on Puregold recently to actually merit this drop. But let me just see if there's actually news coming out on them. Racing, expanding business. Let me see what exactly they are doing. So this is an October 2020 article. Puregold is facing a the health crisis with a strong, so Puregold has a strong balance sheet even in a pandemic, with the grocery sector surging in net income, swarming the 444 stores nationwide. So baka pangit kasi 444 CCC, that's not good. They have to like make it 500 stores or 700 stores or something. It's a bad number for Chinese. Nonetheless, it's not a bad income actually. And the company even bankrolled the company's expansion plans with some 12 billion pesos with a very low interest rate. This is one of the largest market capital fundraising to actually benefit from consumers, even in a general business climate like these. If you're an investor, then invest in something that would pay you back certainly or with less risk, said Alviar, who's LVR. She's an equity analyst at Phil Stocks Financials. Puregold has more capacity to pay these obligations. Yeah, so this is really to be honest, I find the drop on Puregold an opportunity rather than a crisis. And so actually today's price of 38.4 is actually a good entry, if you ask me. Nona is saying it's hard to trim ASEN because of the SRO. Yeah, so I think that at some point in time, some people would just sell half and let the rest ride, while the rest, it's hard to say because it's already gone 500%. So 2 to 10, even if it can go to 12 or even if it goes to 8, I think like most people have their own targets, and so if they're okay already, they would be out. APL for long term, depends, like mining related. So I don't know much about mining. Jill Sander, literally. What's that? Jill Sander is Uniqlo ba? Na fashionista. Your thoughts on Semirara and IRC? All right. Semirara, in my view, has a big trouble in the next couple of years. So I don't think that it's a good short-term play. And it really is a measure of how big the transition to non-fossil fuel related sectors are. So unless that we have a clarity, I think that it's very difficult to consider the companies that are quote-unquote non-ESG friendly. When you say ESG, it's environmental, social governance. So they have to prove on how big the transition they have to renewable power. And it's very hard because Semirara, at the end of the day, is one of the largest coal miners in the Philippines. IRC, what's the news from front of this? Is there even updates here on IRC? Infra development. I think that you just, I don't know. Yeah, so I think it was more related to the infrastructure goals of IRC with Makati Subway, if my memory is still fine about the news here. But definitely you could see resistance at 180. Still, I guess there are people who are willing to follow the trends for this. So okay lang, I guess. If you are interested, it's okay. Not naman, it's hard to say about evaluation because this is more of a narrative story. It's a narrative on infrastructure rather than numbers. Usually these companies will just go through narratives about news, about what they'll do, etc. So effect of the REITs in Double Dragon. I believe that the Double Dragon REITs, so I was discussing that Double Dragon REITs are more of a 5% related bond play. You should actually think of it more as a capped upside but capped downside. So I don't see it going up very high, but neither do I see it going down. So like even if it falls, let's say 5% on IPO, most likely there will be long-term investors who are actually willing to just pick it up, get that yield, which they promise, which is a function of the vacancy or the occupancy of the commercial area of DD Meridian Plaza in the Bay Area. So it's more of that. LTS has the best 2021 crypto investment strategy. Okay, that doesn't seem okay. That seems to be a bot. So thank you for these updates. Can you share some insights on Robinson's Land? Robinson's Land has already went up from 15 to 21, and so I'd say that definitely some people are willing to just profit take, but not necessarily everyone. So like maybe some people will continue to hold on to this and hold on until it goes 25 or 28, but it doesn't preclude the fact that it can also go to about 17 or 18 if the market wants to fall. So in general, what you are seeing right now is that the market wants to actually fall, or at the very least, it's a healthy pullback. So there's nothing to actually be afraid of if the index goes down from about 7,000 to 7,1 to about 6,8 or 6,9. And what would be the catalyst of that? Could be just stronger COVID strains, or just the fact that the closures are still reenacted, the fact that we couldn't travel, or the fact that even if we could, that there are less and less. So you know that it's going to end by January 15, the travel ban, right? January 15, 2021. However, until the Filipinos or the people worldwide would actually be confident about all these COVID strain vaccines, it's very hard to say whether we could actually. I'm not gonna say that we will resume back to normal. There will be habits that are already that will never change. For instance, if you're already used to shopping online, chances are that's the reason why SM has to pivot in order to combat income, because they're the incumbent and the disruptor is quote unquote your Shoppees and Lazadas. So if you are already doing a lot of online banking and a lot of online e-commerce, a lot of online shopping and online retailing, what would be useful in my view is to actually check management discussions in the next couple of weeks, well, it's not yet going to happen January. So it's going to happen maybe late March or early March. So maybe by February, you'll get some telecoms to actually be discussing their numbers. And with telecoms, that is quite stable. So you could see that actually telecoms were quite stable at about 1,300, 1,380, 2,000 for your globe. So usually, when it comes about the first 3 months of the year, given the very strong recovery that has happened from November to December in the Philippine market, I'd say that the January, February could be a bit tame. I could be wrong. It could be tame, but that tameness is not something that is bad. Like if there will be opportunities that drops, it's actually not a bad thing. Usually you want to be buying when people don't want to be buying them, so that eventually when they go up 500% or 300%, or not even as high as what happened to NIKL FNI or ACEN, right? So even if it doesn't move something like that, even if it just goes 30 to 50% in the next 3 to 6 months, you still have a better gain. And you can make money even if you just bought it today and then wait it out next 3 to 6 months. So actually, if you'll ask me, I think the bargain price of today is actually Puregold. 38.40 seems attractive, especially for the people who are looking to just buy and hold for the next 3 to 6 months. Thank you very much. And that's it. All right. Bye-bye.